The great ship hung in space like a silver mountain. It was 3 times larger than any human vessel ever built. The aliens who made it called themselves the Hegemony. They were tall beings with blue skin and 4 arms. Their eyes glowed like small stars in the dark. Inside the ship, Ambassador Zethkara stood before a large screen. The screen showed Earth spinning slowly in the black of space. It looked so small and peaceful. But Zethkara knew better. The humans on that little blue world were dangerous. "Show me their expansion again," Zethkara said to his aide. The screen changed. Now it showed a map of this part of the galaxy. Red dots marked human colonies. 5 years ago, there had been only one red Earth. Now there were 47. The humans were spreading like fire through dry grass. "They move so fast," the aide whispered. "How do they build so many ships so quickly?" Zethkara's 4 arms moved in a gesture that meant worry. "That is what makes them dangerous. Other species take centuries to spread to new worlds. Humans do it in years." The door opened and another alien walked in. This one had green scales and walked on 6 legs. He was from the Collective, another member of the Galactic Council. "The Council has made its decision," the green alien said. "We give the humans one chance. They must stop spreading. They must accept our rule. If they refuse, we use force." Zethkara nodded. He had expected this. The Galactic Council ruled over 12 different alien species. They had kept peace in the galaxy for 1,000 years. They would not let one young species upset that peace. "I will go to their capital world," Zethkara said. "I will deliver the message." The green alien's scales changed color slightly. This meant he was pleased. "Good. Make sure they understand. This is not a request. This is a command." 3 days later, Zethkara's ship entered Earth's solar system. Human ships came to meet him. They were small and fast, like angry insects around a giant. The human ships did not attack, but they followed the alien vessel all the way to Earth. Earth was beautiful. Zethkara had to admit that. Blue oceans and white clouds covered most of the planet. Green and brown land showed through the clouds. It reminded him of his own homeworld. Before the wars had burned it black, the humans had built a space station above their world. It was crude compared to alien technology, but it was huge. Thousands of human ships moved around it like bees. Around a hive, Zethkara's ship docked at the station. He walked through a long tube into human territory. The gravity felt heavy. The air smelled strange. Everything was built for creatures much smaller than him. Humans lined the hallways to stare at him. They were tiny compared to most aliens. They had only 2 arms and 2 legs. Their skin came in many colors: pink, brown, black, yellow. Their hair was different colors too. Some had hair on their faces, but their eyes were what caught Zethkara's attention. Human eyes were fierce. They looked at him without fear. Some looked angry. Others looked curious. A few looked like they wanted to fight. This worried him. Most species showed proper respect when they met a hegemony ambassador. Humans just stared. A human woman walked forward. She wore a dark blue uniform with many small metal decorations. Her hair was gray and pulled back tight. Her eyes were the color of winter ice. "I am Admiral Sarah Chun," she said. Her voice was hard like metal. "I speak for the Human Federation." "You wanted to talk, so talk." Zethkara was surprised. Most species had long ceremonies when meeting aliens. They offered gifts and said many polite words. This human just got straight to business. "I am Ambassador Zethkara of the Hegemony," he said. "I speak for the Galactic Council. We need to discuss your species' expansion." Admiral Chun nodded once. "Follow me." She led him through the station. Humans stopped their work to watch them pass. Zethkara noticed something odd. The humans were not afraid of him. Most young species were terrified when they first met aliens. Humans looked at him like he was just another problem to solve. They entered a large room with windows that showed Earth below. A long table sat in the center. Admiral Chun sat on one side. She pointed to a chair on the other side that had been made bigger for alien visitors. Zethkara sat down. The chair was still too small for him. Admiral Chun, I will speak plainly. The Galactic Council has watched your species for 5 years. We are concerned. About what? Admiral Chun asked. Your expansion, your aggression, your refusal to make contact with us until now. Admiral Chun's face did not change. We've been busy. Too busy to follow galactic law. What galactic law? Zethkara felt a chill in his chest. The law that says new species must ask permission before settling new worlds. The law that says all intelligent species must join the Galactic Council. The law that has kept peace for 1,000 years. Admiral Chun leaned back in her chair. We never agreed to those laws. You do not have a choice. The Council rules this galaxy. Says who? The question was so simple it caught Zethkara off guard. The Council has the strongest fleets, the best technology. We have kept order while your species was still learning to make fire. And now we're here, Admiral Chun said. What's your point? Zethkara stood up, his forearms spread wide. My point is that you will obey Council law or face the consequences. Admiral. Hyun did not move. She just looked at him with those cold eyes. Are you threatening us? I am giving you a choice. Stop your expansion, submit to Council oversight, accept our guidance. Do this, and you will be welcome in the galactic community. And if we refuse? Zethkara's skin darkened. Among his people this showed anger. Then you will be pacified. Your ships will be destroyed, your colonies will be occupied. Your people will learn to obey. The room was quiet for a long moment. Admiral Chan looked out the window at Earth. Her planet turned slowly below them. Beautiful and peaceful. Finally, she looked back at Zethkara. Is that your final offer? It is the Council's final offer. You have 48 hours to decide. Admiral Chun stood up. She was much smaller than Zethkara, but somehow she seemed to fill the room. I don't need 48 hours. You refuse? Telling you the same thing I told the last bunch of bullies who tried to push us around. Her voice was quiet, but it carried the weight of mountains. We don't negotiate with anyone who threatens us. Zethkara felt confusion. Then what do you propose? Admiral Chen walked to the window. She put her hand against the glass and looked down at her world. You said you want us to be quiet. You want us to stop expanding. You want us to sit down and shut up and do what we're told. The Council wants order. Admiral Chun turned around. For the first time she smiled. It was not a nice smile. You want silence from us? Fine, you'll get it. What does that mean? It means this conversation is over. It means you can take your ultimatum and your threats and your galactic law and stuff them in a black hole. Her voice grew harder with each word. It means if you want a war, you picked the wrong species. Zethkara's forearms moved in agitation. You cannot fight the entire Council. We have ships that could crack your planet like an egg. Maybe, Admiral Chen said, but you know what you don't have? What? You don't have any idea what you're dealing with. She walked past him toward the door. You want silence, Ambassador? You're about to get more silence than you ever imagined. She stopped at the door and looked back. You have 1 hour to get off this station and out of our system. After that, we consider your presence hostile? Zethkara stood alone in the room for several minutes after she left. He looked out at Earth spinning below. Such a small world. Such a young species. They could not possibly stand against the combined might of the Galactic Council, but something in Admiral Chin's voice had made his skin crawl. It was not fear he had heard. It was not even anger. It was certainty. Complete, unshakable certainty. He left the station and returned to his ship. As they pulled away from Earth, his aide asked, How did they respond to the ultimatum? Zethkara watched Earth shrink behind them. They refused. All of them? The entire species? I spoke only to one human, but yes, I believe all of them refuse. The aide's tentacles writhed with excitement. Then we attack? Zethkara was quiet for a long moment. Something was wrong. The conversation had not gone as expected. Humans were supposed to be frightened. They were supposed to beg for mercy or try to negotiate. They were not supposed to simply refuse and walk away. Prepare a message for the council, he said finally. Tell them the humans have rejected our offer. Tell them to ready the fleet. And what else should I tell them? Zethkara looked at the stars ahead of them. Somewhere out there, human ships were moving between human worlds. Humans were building and growing and spreading like they had been doing for 5 years, but Admiral Chun had promised silence. Tell them, Zethkara said slowly, that I think we may have made a mistake. The aide looked confused, but he began preparing the message. Neither of them knew that it would be the last communication anyone would receive from human space for a very long time. Behind them, Earth continued to spin in the darkness. On its surface, 12 billion humans went about their daily lives. They went to work and came home to their families. Children played in parks, students studied in schools, scientists worked in laboratories. None of them knew that war was coming. But somewhere in the highest levels of human government, orders were being given. Secret projects that had been in development for years were suddenly given unlimited resources. Admiral Chun sat in her office and looked at a list of names on her computer screen. Each name belonged to a human colony world. Each world had millions of people living normal lives. She picked up a secure communication device and spoke a single word, quietus. Across human space, people in secret facilities received that word. They began pressing buttons and activating machines that most humans didn't even know existed. The Galactic Council wanted silence. They were about to get exactly what they asked for. Captain Morthic of the Hegemony scout ship Whisper had seen many strange things in his 40 years of service. He had watched stars being born. He had seen worlds where the oceans were made of liquid diamond. He had even survived an attack by space pirates near the galactic rim, but he had never seen anything like this. Sir, his communications officer called out, I'm getting nothing from the human colony on Kepler 442b. Morthic looked at his screens. The planet hung in space ahead of them, looking exactly as it had 6 months ago. Green continents, blue, oceans, white clouds. The lights of human cities sparkled on the dark side of the world. What do you mean, nothing? No radio signals. No data transmissions, no traffic control chatter, nothing at all. Morthic frowned. Every inhabited world in the galaxy buzzed with electronic noise, ships talking to ground control, people sending messages to other worlds, computers sharing information. The silence from the human world was like looking at a corpse. Take us closer, he ordered. The Whisper moved toward the planet. As they got nearer, Morthic could see human ships moving between the world and its 3 moons. Cargo vessels carried supplies. Passenger ships moved people around. Everything looked normal. Try to contact one of those ships, he told his communications officer. I'm sending signals on all frequencies. Standard galactic greeting protocols. They waited. The human ships continued on their paths as if the alien vessel didn't exist. Sir, they're not responding. It's like they can't see us. Morthic had been a scout for decades. His job was to watch human expansion and report back to the Council. In all that time, human ships had always responded to alien contact. Sometimes they were friendly. Sometimes they were suspicious, but they always responded. This was different. Take U.S. into orbit, he ordered Dot as they circled the planet. Morthic watched the human world through his ship's powerful sensors. Everything seemed normal. Cities bustled with activity. Spacecraft moved cargo between orbital stations. On the surface, vehicles moved along roads between population centers, but when his communications officer tried to contact ground control, nothing happened. It's like we're ghosts, the officer said. They act like we're not here. Morthic had a cold feeling in his stomach. 3 days ago, the Galactic Council had received Ambassador Zethkara report. The humans had refused the ultimatum. The Council had begun preparing for war, but you couldn't fight an enemy that pretended you didn't exist. Send a priority message to Council Command, Morthic ordered. Tell them what we're seeing here. While his crew prepared the message, Morthic watched a human cargo ship pass close to his vessel. The ship was huge by human standards, but tiny. Compared to his scout ship, he could see through its windows. Human crew members moved around inside, doing their jobs. Not one of them looked in his direction. 2 days later, more reports came in. The Council had sent scout ships to every human colony. The story was the same everywhere. Human worlds continued to function normally, but they completely ignored all alien contact. On New Terra, a Council diplomatic ship had landed at the main spaceport. Human ground crews had worked around it like it was invisible. When the alien diplomats tried to enter the terminal building, humans had walked through them as if they were made of air. Harmony. A collective science vessel had tried to scan the human research stations. The station's defensive systems hadn't even activated. The humans inside had continued their experiments as if nothing was happening. Most disturbing of all was the report from Proxima Station. A Council warship had actually fired a warning shot across the bow of a human merchant vessel. The merchant ship had continued on its course without changing speed or direction. The humans inside had shown no reaction at all. Admiral Vexthari of the Council fleet read the reports in his flagship's command center. Around him, officers from 12 different alien species worked at control stations. The war fleet was the largest in galactic history. Over 3,000 ships armed with weapons that could destroy entire worlds. But how do you fight an enemy that won't acknowledge your existence? Sir, his intelligence officer reported, we're receiving a message from the human homeworld. Vexthari's tentacles curled with interest. Put it on the main screen. The image that appeared showed Admiral Sarah Chun sitting at a desk. She looked tired, but her eyes were still cold and hard. Behind her, Earth spun slowly in space. This is Admiral Chun of the Human Federation, she said. I'm making this recording for anyone who might be watching. 47 hours ago, representatives of something calling itself the Galactic Council delivered an ultimatum to humanity. They demanded that we stop our expansion, submit to their authority, and accept their rule over our species. She paused and looked directly at the camera. It felt like she was looking right at Vexthari. We said no. Apparently, that wasn't the answer they wanted to hear. They threatened to attack our worlds and destroy our ships. They said they would force us to obey. Admiral Chun stood up and walked to a window that showed Earth below. The Council wanted silence from us. They wanted us to sit down, shut up, and do what we were told. Well, they're going to get their wish. From this moment forward, humanity chooses silence. She turned back to the camera. But understand this. Our silence doesn't mean surrender. It doesn't mean we're afraid. It means we no longer recognize the authority of anyone who threatens our freedom. The Galactic Council and all its member species no longer exist as far as we're concerned. Vexthari felt a chill run through his body. What does she mean? On the screen, Admiral Chun continued speaking, we won't attack you. We won't fight you. We won't even acknowledge you. You are nothing. To us now, less than nothing. You are the empty space between stars. The message continued for several more minutes, but Vexthari barely heard it. His mind was racing. How could an entire species simply decide that the rest of the galaxy didn't exist? Over the following weeks, more reports came in. Every human colony had gone completely silent. Not destroyed, not evacuated, just silent. Human ships still traveled between their worlds, but they acted like alien vessels were invisible. A collective research team had landed on a human mining world. They had walked through human settlements for hours. The humans had continued their work, walking around the aliens like they were rocks or trees. One alien scientist had stood directly in front of a human miner for 10 minutes, waving his arms and shouting. The human had simply walked through him and continued digging. Most strange of all, the aliens found they couldn't interact with human technology either. When they tried to access human computers, the machines didn't respond. When they attempted to scan human buildings, their sensors returned empty readings. It was as if humans existed in a different reality. Dr. Vexthari, the Council's top synapsepsychologist, studied the reports in her laboratory. As a member of the ethereal species, she could read the emotional resonance of other beings across vast distances. But when she tried to sense human emotions, she found nothing, not emptiness, not death, nothing. It's impossible, she told her. Research team. Consciousness doesn't work this way. You can't simply decide that something doesn't exist and make it true. Her assistant, a young hegemony scientist, pulled up a holographic display. But that's exactly what they seem to have done. Look at these energy readings from human space. The display showed swirling patterns of light around human worlds. Dr. Velthari had never seen anything like it. What am I looking at? She asked. We're not sure. Some kind of field effect that surrounds all human settlements. It's not blocking our sensors exactly. It's more like ... It's editing reality. Dr. Velthari studied the patterns. They reminded her of something, but she couldn't. Place what? Run a comparison analysis with known psychic phenomena? She ordered. Hours later, the computer delivered its results. Dr. Velthari stared at the data in disbelief. This is impossible, she whispered. The patterns around human worlds matched the energy signatures of collective consciousness events? But they were millions of times stronger than anything ever recorded. Somehow, the entire human species was thinking as one. And they were thinking the Galactic Council out of existence. Back on the flagship, Admiral Vextari received Dr. Velthari's report. He read it 3 times before he understood what she was saying. You're telling me that humans have achieved species-wide telepathy? Not telepathy exactly, Dr. Velthari explained through the communication link. It's more like shared reality construction. They've all agreed that we don't exist, and somehow they've made that agreement physically true. But that's impossible. Reality doesn't work that way. For most species, no, but humans seem to be different. Their brain structure is unique in the galaxy. They have an unusual relationship with what they call imagination. Most species see a clear line between what's real and what's imagined. Humans seem to live in both worlds at once. Vextari's head hurt. Are you saying they've imagined us away? I'm saying they've chosen to exist in a version of reality where we never existed. And somehow they have the collective willpower to make the choice stick. The Admiral looked out at the human worlds visible on his screens. Cities glowed with light. Ships moved between planets. Millions of humans lived their lives just a few thousand kilometers away, but he might as well have been looking at empty space. Sir, his communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from Council headquarters. The message was from the Council itself. The 12 species that ruled the galaxy were demanding answers. Why hadn't the human threat been eliminated? Why weren't human worlds responding to diplomatic contact? Why had the largest war fleet in galactic history accomplished nothing? Vextari didn't know how to answer those questions. How do you explain that you can't fight an enemy that has simply decided you don't exist? On the human world below, Sarah. Chun sat in her office reading reports. Human colonies were thriving. Trade between human worlds had increased. Scientific research was advancing at record speed. None of the reports mentioned aliens. Not because there was a rule against it, but because there were no aliens to mention. The humans who wrote the reports lived in a reality where humanity was alone in the galaxy. Chun was one of the few humans who still remembered the Galactic Council. She had to remember because her job was to make sure the silence continued. She pulled up a classified file on her computer. It contained the technical specifications for Project Quietus. The name came from an old Earth word meaning final silence. For decades, human scientists had studied the power of collective belief. They had discovered that under the right conditions, large groups of humans could influence reality itself. The effect was usually small, making a coin land on the right side, causing unlikely events to happen. But what if you could get every human in the galaxy to believe the same thing at the same time? Project Quietus was the answer. A network of quantum resonance fields that linked every human mind across space. When activated, it allowed the entire species to share the same thoughts and beliefs, and right now, every human in the galaxy believed the same thing. The Galactic Council had never existed. Chun closed the file and looked out her window at Earth. Her world looked the same as always. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. Ships moved between Earth and its moon. Everything was peaceful and normal. She couldn't see the massive alien war fleet that hung in space just outside Earth's orbit. Neither could anyone else on her planet. The Galactic Council had asked for silence. They had gotten exactly what they requested, but they were learning that some silences were louder than screams. Dr. Velthari floated in her laboratory's meditation chamber, surrounded by swirling clouds of luminescent gas. As an ethereal, she could see thoughts and emotions as patterns of light. Right now, those patterns told a story that terrified her. For 3 months, she had studied the human silence. What she had found challenged everything the galaxy knew about the nature of reality itself. "Computer, display the latest scan results from human space," she said. The chamber filled with holographic images. Each one showed a human world surrounded by waves of energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. The patterns were beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Analysis complete," the computer announced. "The energy fields around human settlements have strengthened by 37% since the initial measurements." Dr. Velthari's ethereal form shimmered with worry. The humans weren't just maintaining their collective delusion. They were making it stronger. Her research had taken her deep into forbidden territory. Most species had rules against studying the connection between consciousness and reality. The experiments were too dangerous. A single mistake could unravel the fabric of space-time itself, but the humans had already crossed that line. "Show me the Earth data," she commanded. A new image appeared. Earth hung in the center of the chamber, but it looked wrong. The planet was surrounded by a shell of twisted space that bent light in impossible ways. Reality itself was warped around. The human homeworld. Dr. Velthari had spent weeks trying to understand what she was seeing. Finally, she had found her answer in the oldest archives of the ethereal race. Her people had seen something like this before, billions of years ago. They called it the reality storm. Long before any of the current galactic civilizations existed, the ethereals had discovered a species with the power to reshape reality through collective thought. That species had tried to create a perfect universe where nothing bad could happen. They had succeeded too well. They had thought themselves out of existence entirely. Now the humans were doing the same thing, but in reverse. Instead of creating a perfect reality, they were editing out the parts they didn't like. And the part they didn't like was the Galactic Council. "Velthari to Council Command," she said into her communicator. "I need to speak with Admiral Vexthari immediately." Minutes later, the Admiral's image appeared in the chamber. He looked tired and frustrated. 3 months of trying to fight an invisible enemy had worn him down. "Doctor, please tell me you have good news," he said. "I'm afraid not, Admiral. I've completed my analysis of the human phenomenon. What they've done is far more dangerous than we initially believed." Vextaria's tentacles writhed with impatience. "Explain it in simple terms." "My fleet commanders are asking why we don't just blast the human worlds to dust and be done with it." "Because it wouldn't work," Dr. Velthari said. "The humans haven't just decided to ignore us. They've actually removed us from their version of reality. If you fired every weapon in your fleet at Earth, the humans wouldn't see the attack happening. But they would still die when the planet exploded, would they?" "Admiral, I've been studying the energy readings from human space. The humans have achieved something that should be impossible. They've made their beliefs physically real." Dr. Velthari pulled up a new display. It showed sensor readings from a recent incident near a human mining colony. 2 weeks ago, a Council patrol ship suffered a reactor malfunction near the human world of New Ceres. The ship was destroyed in a massive explosion. The blast should have been visible from the planet's surface. And the humans on New Ceres never saw it? Their sensors never detected it? As far as they're concerned, it never happened. But here's the truly disturbing part. Our own ships had trouble detecting the explosion too. It's as if the event was partially erased from reality. Admiral Vextari was quiet for a long moment. "Are you saying the humans are making themselves immune to our weapons?" I'm saying they're making our weapons not exist in their reality, and their reality is becoming more real than ours. Dr. Velthari moved to another part of her chamber. Here, she had built a model of local space using pure thought energy. It showed human worlds as bright spots connected by flowing streams of consciousness. Look at this, Admiral. Every human mind is connected to every other human mind through quantum resonance fields. 12 billion people on Earth, plus another. 8 billion on colony worlds. 20 billion minds all thinking the same thought. The Galactic Council doesn't exist. But we do exist. I'm talking to you right now. Yes, but for how much longer? Dr. Veltharia's form grew brighter with excitement. Admiral, reality isn't as solid as we thought. It's more like a democracy. Most of the time, everyone agrees on what's real, so reality stays stable. But if enough minds believe something different, reality changes to match the belief. Exactly. And the humans have 20 billion votes. How many beings live in council? Space? Vextari did quick calculations in his head. About 15 billion total across all 12 species. So they outnumber us? And unlike us, they're all thinking the exact same thing. Their collective will is stronger than ours. The Admiral felt a chill run through his body. Doctor, are you telling me that the humans could think us out of existence entirely? It's possible. The energy fields around their worlds are growing stronger every day. Eventually, they might become powerful enough to rewrite history itself. They could make it so the Galactic Council never existed in the first place. Admiral Vextari closed his eyes and tried to think. This was beyond anything in his military training. How do you fight an enemy that could simply decide you never existed? What about the other species in Council space? He asked. Surely. They would remember us even if the humans forgot. Dr. Velthari shook her head sadly. I've been monitoring the border regions between human space and Council territory. The effect is spreading. Species that live near human colonies are starting to report strange memory gaps. They remember trading with humans, but they can't remember ever seeing any aliens in human space. The humans are infecting other species. With their delusion. It's not a delusion anymore, Admiral. It's becoming the new reality. And once it spreads far enough, even we might forget that we ever existed. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from the bridge. Admiral, we're receiving reports from patrol ships throughout the fleet. Multiple vessels are reporting unusual incidents. What kind of incidents? Crew members who claim they've never seen humans before. Ships whose sensor logs show no record of entering human space, even though they're currently orbiting human worlds. Dr. Veltharia's form flickered with fear. It's starting, Admiral. The human reality is overriding ours. Admiral Vextari felt panic rising in his chest. In all his years of military service, he had never faced anything like this. Pirates he could fight, rebels he could crush, invasions he could repel. But how do you fight against forgetting that you exist? Doctor, is there any way to reverse this effect? Theoretically, yes. If we could disrupt the quantum fields that connect human minds, their collective consciousness would break apart. They would return to normal individual thinking. How? Do we do that? Dr. Velthari was quiet for a long moment. The fields are generated by devices hidden on every human world. We would need to locate and destroy all of them simultaneously. Then we attack. We send strike teams to every human colony at once. Admiral, you're not listening. The humans don't see us. They can't see our ships. They can't see our weapons. They can't see us. How are we supposed to land strike teams on planets where we don't exist? The question hung in the air like a curse. Admiral Vextari stared at the display showing human worlds glowing peacefully in space. So close, yet completely unreachable. There has to be a way, he said finally. Perhaps. But we're running out of time. I estimate that within 6 months, the human reality field will be strong enough to affect our core worlds. Within a year, even the Council homeworlds might forget that we ever existed. Dr. Velthari paused, then added quietly, Admiral, there's something else. Something I discovered in the ancient ethereal archives. What? The species that created the first reality storm. They didn't just disappear. According to our records, they achieved something that our ancestors called transcendence. They moved beyond physical reality entirely. Are you saying the humans are trying to transcend physical existence? I don't think they're trying to. I think it's happening automatically. When you edit enough of reality, you eventually edit yourself out of it too. Admiral Vextari felt a cold certainty settle in his mind. And if they transcend while maintaining their belief that we don't exist, then we'll be trapped forever, in a universe where we never existed. The only beings who remember us will be us, and eventually even we might forget. The Admiral closed the communication link and sat alone in his command center. Around him, officers from 12 different species worked at their stations. They all existed. They all had families and homes and dreams. But somewhere in human space, 20 billion minds were thinking them out of existence, one thought at a time. He opened a new communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Vextari. Prepare for immediate withdrawal from human space. Sir? His second-in-command asked. Are we retreating? No, the Admiral said quietly. We're running for our lives. As the massive Council fleet began to turn away from human space, none of the human worlds reacted. Ships continued their normal traffic patterns. Cities continued to glow with light. 20 billion people went about their daily lives, secure, in the knowledge that they were alone in the galaxy. But in the space between stars, reality itself was changing. The universe was forgetting that 12 ancient species had ever existed. And in her laboratory, Dr. Velthari watched the energy patterns around Earth grow brighter and stronger with each passing hour. Soon she knew even the stars themselves might forget to shine on the worlds that had once challenged humanity's right to exist. The humans had asked for silence from the galaxy. Now they were making sure that silence would last forever. High Counselor Thexmoran had ruled the Callan Empire for 60 years. His people were proud warriors who had never known defeat. Their ships were the fastest in the galaxy. Their weapons could shatter moons, but today Thexmoran felt old and confused. Explain it to me again, he said to his intelligence chief. Slowly, Commander Ulaneth shifted uncomfortably. He was young for his position, promoted quickly after several senior officers had suffered what the medical staff called memory inconsistencies. Sir, according to our records, we have been members of the Galactic Council for 800 years. We have trade agreements with 11 other species. Our territory borders the hegemony and the collective. Yes, I remember all of that. But, sir, our patrol ships can't find the hegemony worlds. Our traders can't locate collective space stations. It's as if they've simply vanished. Thexmoran's claws scraped against his throne. Ships don't vanish. Entire civilizations don't vanish. Find them. We've tried, sir. We've searched every system on our star charts. The worlds are there, but they're empty. No cities, no ships, no signs of intelligent life. Just primitive planets with basic ecosystems. The High Counselor stood and walked to the great window that looked out over his capital city. Below him, millions of Callan citizens went about their daily lives. Everything looked normal, but something was wrong. He could feel it in his bones. What about the humans? He asked. The humans, sir? Vexmoran turned around. The species that started expanding 5 years ago. The ones the Council was preparing to fight. Commander Ulaneth looked confused. Sir, I have no record of any species called humans. You feeling well? A cold fear crept up Thexmoran's spine. He walked to his personal computer and called up classified files that only he could access. Files about the Galactic Council. Records of meetings and treaties and decisions. The files were there, but they made no sense. They talked about agreements between the Callan Empire and empty space. Trade deals with species that didn't exist. Military alliances with nobody. Get me Admiral Vextari of the Council Fleet, he ordered. Sir, who is Admiral Vextari and what Council Fleet? Thexmoran stared at his intelligence chief. Ulaneth was a smart officer. He had perfect memory. He never forgot anything, but now he was looking at his High Counselor like Dexmoran was speaking nonsense. "Leave me," Dexmoran said quietly. After Ulanef left, the High Counselor sat alone in his throne room. He tried to remember the last time he had spoken with representatives of the other council species. It had been ... yesterday? Last week? He couldn't remember. Worse, when he tried to picture the faces of alien diplomats he had known for decades, their features were blurry in his mind. It was like trying to remember a dream after waking up. Similar scenes were playing out. Across the galaxy on the collective homeworld, Queen Zelendra called an emergency meeting of her hive mind council. For hours, they discussed the strange gaps in their collective memory. Their records showed treaties with species they couldn't remember meeting, trade routes to worlds they couldn't locate. The hegemony's ruling council faced an even stranger problem. Half of their member worlds had disappeared from their territory maps. Not destroyed or conquered, simply gone, as if they had never existed, but the strangest reports came from the border regions. Near human space. Captain Jorveth of the Free Traders Guild was hauling cargo between independent worlds when he discovered something impossible. His ship's navigation computer showed a trade route that passed through a system with 3 inhabited worlds. But when he arrived, he found only empty planets covered with primitive forests. According to his records, he had made this same run dozens of times. He had detailed notes about the customs procedures on each world, the local currencies, the faces of regular customers, but the worlds were empty. They had always been empty. That night, Jorveth sat in his ship's cabin trying to make sense of his logbooks. The entries were in his own handwriting. They described years of trading with species he couldn't remember ever meeting. Computer scan. "The Nexus System for Intelligent Life," he said, double quotes, scanning ... No intelligent life detected. The worlds show signs of basic ecosystem development, but no civilization. But I was just there last month. I sold medical supplies to the Nexus colonies. Captain, there are no Nexus colonies. There never have been. Jorveth felt reality slipping away from him like sand through his fingers. He pulled up a photograph from his personal files. It showed him standing with a group of alien traders at a space station in the Nexus system, but when he looked at the picture now, he was standing alone in an empty cargo bay across the galaxy. The same thing was happening to millions of beings. Traders found that half their regular customers had never existed. Diplomats discovered that peace treaties they had negotiated were with empty space. Scientists realized that years of research collaboration with alien colleagues had apparently been done with nobody at all. The Galactic Council itself was dissolving like a mirage. Dr. Velthari watched it all from her laboratory ship, which was hidden in the dark between stars. She was one of the few beings left who still remembered what was happening, and only because she had surrounded herself with quantum isolation fields that blocked the human reality waves. Personal log, day 123, she spoke into her recorder. The human silence protocol has achieved something I didn't think was possible. They haven't just edited themselves out of galactic civilization. They're editing the entire history of galactic civilization. She pulled up a holographic display showing the spread of the reality distortion. What had started as localized fields around human worlds now stretched across a quarter of the galaxy. Species that have never had direct contact with humans are beginning to forget that other aliens exist. The effect appears to be spreading along trade routes and communication networks. It's as if the human belief that they are alone in the galaxy is infectious. Dr. Velthari paused to study readings from her sensors. The energy signatures were unlike anything in the scientific literature. I believe the humans have accidentally discovered something our ancestors only theorized about: reality cascade. Failure. When a sufficiently powerful consciousness field encounters resistance, it doesn't stop at the original target. It continues spreading until it rewrites history to eliminate all contradictions. She zoomed in on human space. The colonies were thriving. Human ships moved freely between worlds. Scientific research was advancing at an incredible pace. The humans themselves seem unaware of what they've accomplished. From their perspective, they've always been alone in the galaxy. They're experiencing rapid technological and cultural development, probably because they're no longer spending resources on military preparation or diplomatic contact. A warning alarm sounded in her laboratory. Dr. Velthari checked her instruments and felt her heart sink. The quantum isolation fields that protected her ship were weakening. The reality distortion is stronger than anticipated. My protection is failing. I estimate I have perhaps days before I too forget what I'm trying to study. She worked frantically to complete her research. If someone was going to remember what had happened to the galaxy, it had to be documented now. Final analysis. The humans appear to have achieved what they call selective reality filtering through a combination of quantum consciousness linkage and collective will enforcement. Every human mind is connected to a network that maintains a shared version of reality. In their reality, aliens have never existed. Dr. Velthari felt a strange sensation, as if her thoughts were becoming fuzzy around the edges. The field is affecting me now. I'm beginning to forget why I'm making this recording. The humans wanted silence from the galaxy. They wanted to be left alone. They've achieved that goal by making themselves the only intelligent species that ever existed. She looked at her instruments one last time. The readings showed human space expanding slowly but steadily. Not through conquest or colonization, but through reality revision. Space itself was being rewritten to show that humans had always been the only ones there. Whoever finds this recording, if anyone finds this recording, understand that this was not malicious. The humans were threatened and responded the only way they knew how. They chose to exist in a reality where the threat never existed. Dr. Velthari felt her memories slipping away like water. She could no longer remember why she was afraid of the energy patterns on her screens. They looked beautiful and peaceful, but there is danger here. If the humans ever decide that other threats exist, war, disease, death itself, they might edit those out of reality too. And a universe where nothing bad can happen is a universe where nothing can happen at all. The recording ended as Dr. Velthari's ship drifted into human space. The quantum isolation fields finally failed completely. Within hours, she had forgotten that she was a scientist studying impossible phenomena. She thought she was an explorer, investigating beautiful energy patterns around uninhabited worlds. She spent her final days documenting the fascinating natural quantum effects that seemed to occur around star systems in this region. She never wondered why her ship's design seemed so different from what she expected. She never questioned why. Her equipment was built for studying alien civilizations when everyone knew that no aliens existed. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the last members of the Galactic Council faced their final crisis. But they no longer remembered it as a crisis. They could no longer remember that they had ever been part of anything larger than their own individual species. The Kalan Empire found itself alone in space, with no knowledge that other intelligent species had ever existed. Their proud warrior culture turned inward, leading to civil wars and social collapse. The collective's hive mind fractured without external threats to unite against. The different hives began fighting each other for resources they had once shared. One by one, the great civilizations of the galaxy crumbled. Not because they were conquered or destroyed, but because they had lost the connections that gave their existence meaning. And in human space, 20 billion people went about their daily lives, secure in the knowledge that they were the only intelligent life in the universe. Their scientists studied the stars and wondered if someday they might find signs of other civilizations. They never found any, of course. There was nothing left to find. 5 years had passed since the Galactic Council had demanded humanity's silence. Admiral Sarah Chun was older now, her gray hair turned white, her face marked by lines of worry that hadn't been there before. She stood in her office looking out at Earth, just as she had on the day she defied the alien ultimatum. The planet looked peaceful. Ships moved between Earth and its colonies. Everything seemed perfect, but Sarah Chun was one of only a handful of humans who knew the truth. And the truth was eating her alive. "Admiral," her aide said, entering the office with a datapad. The daily reports from Project Quietus. Chun took the pad without looking at it. She already knew what it would say. The quantum fields that connected. Human minds were stable. The reality filters were operating normally. Humanity continued to exist in a universe where they were alone. Any anomalies? She asked. No, ma'am. The system is working perfectly. No signs of alien activity anywhere in human space. Of course there weren't. There couldn't be. The aliens didn't exist in human reality anymore, but Chun remembered. She had to remember because someone needed to maintain the system that kept humanity safe. Someone needed to watch for threats that her people could no longer see. She dismissed her aide and activated her personal communication system. Only a few dozen people in the entire Human Federation had access to this network. They were the guardians of Project Quietus, the keepers of dangerous knowledge. Status report, she said into the communicator. Dr. James Martinez answered first. He was the lead scientist on the project, one of the few humans who still knew that aliens existed. Admiral, the reality fields are stronger than ever. We estimate that our influence now extends across 60% of the galaxy. Any sign of alien resistance? No, ma'am. As far as we can tell, most alien civilizations have forgotten that they ever knew about each other. The cascade effect worked better than we hoped. Chun felt a familiar chill. The cascade effect hadn't been planned. They had meant to make aliens ignore humanity, not forget that other aliens existed. But once the reality revision began, it had spread like wildfire through the galactic community. What about the monitoring stations? She asked. Still operational. We're tracking 7 different alien species in various stages of civilizational collapse. Without the connections provided by the old Galactic Council, most of them are falling apart. Chun closed her eyes. This wasn't what she had wanted. She had just wanted to protect her people from alien threats. She hadn't meant to destroy an entire galactic civilization, but it was too late to stop now. If they turned off Project Quietus, humanity would suddenly become visible to whatever aliens were left. And those aliens would be angry? Any other business? She asked. Dr. Sarah Kim, the project psychologist, spoke up. Admiral, I'm concerned about the psychological effects on our maintenance staff. Keeping the knowledge of aliens while surrounded by people who don't believe in them is causing severe stress. Xion knew the feeling. She spent her days in meetings with officials who made plans for humanity's future without any knowledge that other intelligent species existed. She listened to scientists debate whether life might exist elsewhere in the galaxy, never knowing that humans had already found it and hidden from it. We'll discuss psychological support protocols later, she said. Is there anything else? Actually. Yes, Dr. Martinez said. His voice sounded worried. We've detected some unusual energy readings from the galactic rim. Something big is moving through space. How big? Continental size, maybe larger, and Admiral ... It's not showing up on regular sensors. Only our quantum monitoring equipment can detect it. Chen felt her blood turn cold. Are you saying there's something out there that exists outside normal reality? I'm saying there's something coming that's so alien even our reality filters can't edit it out. The meeting ended with plans to increase monitoring and prepare contingency protocols, but Chun knew they were flying blind. Project Quietus was designed to hide humanity from known threats. How do you hide from something that doesn't follow the normal rules of existence? 3 months later, she had her answer. The first reports came from the rim colonies. Ships were disappearing, but not in any way that made sense. They didn't explode or get captured. They simply ceased to exist, as if they had never been built in the first place, but the crew's families still remembered them. Children asked where their parents were. Spouses waited for loved ones who were never coming home, even though official records showed those people had never existed. It's impossible, Dr. Martinez said during an emergency meeting. Our reality fields should be editing out any trace of the disappeared ships and crews, but somehow people are remembering them anyway. Admiral Chun studied the sensor data from the rim. Strange objects were moving through space, things that look like they were made of twisted metal and hungry darkness. They consumed everything they touched, not just destroying it, but removing it from history itself. What are we dealing with? She asked. We think they're called devourers, Dr. Kim said. I found references to them in some old alien databases that we captured before implementing Quietus. They're from outside our galaxy. They consume not just matter and energy, but the very concept of existence. And they're immune to our reality filters? More than immune. They seem to be attracted to them. The quantum fields that hide us from normal aliens are like beacons to these things. Xion felt the weight of 5 years of decisions crushing down on her. In trying to protect humanity from the Galactic Council, she had eliminated the galaxy's defenses against a much worse threat. Can we contact the alien civilizations? She asked. Warn them about what's coming, Dr. Martinez shook his head. Most of them have collapsed. The ones that are left don't remember that we exist. Even if we turned off Quietus, it would take months to re-establish communication. And by then, pull quotes, by then it will be too late. Shun looked at the tactical displays showing the Devourer advance. They were moving slowly but steadily toward the galactic core. Every system they passed through simply stopped existing. How long? Until they reach human space? She asked. 6 months, maybe less. And there's no way to fight them? The old Galactic Council might have had a chance. Their combined fleets, their shared knowledge, their coordinated defenses, But that's all gone now. Chun spent the next few hours alone in her office, staring out at Earth, somewhere out there. 20 billion humans lived their lives without fear, because they existed in a reality where nothing bad could threaten them, but reality was about to teach them a harsh lesson. She activated her emergency communication system and sent a message to every Project Quietus facility in human space. Initiate Protocol 7. Begin reality field shutdown. The response was immediate. Admiral, that will expose us to any surviving alien forces. I know. Do it anyway. Ma'am, shutting down Quietus will be traumatic for the civilian population. They'll suddenly remember that aliens exist. There could be panic. Better panic than extinction. Over the following days, the quantum fields that had hidden humanity for 5 years slowly powered down. Across human space, people began to remember things they had forgotten. Scientists found research notes about alien contact. Diplomats discovered files about negotiations with non-human species. Military officers remembered preparing for war against something called the Galactic Council. The psychological impact was massive. Hospitals filled with people suffering from reality displacement syndrome. Some humans couldn't handle the sudden knowledge that they weren't alone in the universe. Others became furious that this information had been hidden from them, but Jean had no time to deal with domestic problems. She had to find the surviving alien civilizations and warn them about the DVOURERS. It was harder than she expected. The reality cascade had done its work too well. Most alien species had forgotten about interstellar civilization entirely. They had retreated to their homeworlds and were fighting among themselves. Finally, June managed to contact a survivor from the old hegemony. Commander Zethkara, the same alien who had delivered the ultimatum 5 years earlier. Admiral Chun, he said when her message reached him, I remember you. You're the human who said we would get silence. Yes, and you did. But now we have a bigger problem. June transmitted all the data about the Devourers. Zethkara studied it in silence for several minutes. These creatures, they're what destroyed the Builders. Who were the Builders? The first galactic civilization. They existed billions of years ago, before any of our current species evolved. The Builders created technologies that could reshape reality itself. According to legend, they tried to create a perfect universe where nothing bad could happen. Chun felt ice in her veins. What happened to them? They succeeded. They edited out war, disease, death, and suffering. But in doing so, they also edited outgrowth, change, and meaning. Their perfect universe became a static void, and the Devourers came to consume even that emptiness. Are you saying that we caused this? That Project Quietus attracted them? Perhaps. Or perhaps they were coming anyway, and we simply eliminated the defenses that might have stopped them. Chun looked at her tactical displays. The Devourers were 3 months away from the first human colonies. Can we fight them? She asked. The Galactic Council might have had a chance, but that council no longer exists. Most of our species have forgotten how to work together. We've forgotten that we're not alone. Then we make them remember. Chen spent her remaining time trying to rebuild what Project Quietus had destroyed. She sent messages to every alien species she could find, reminding them of their shared history. She tried to convince them to work together against the coming threat. Some listened. A few hegemony ships joined the growing defense fleet. Several collective hives contributed their bioships. The proud Kalan warriors remembered their honor and sent their fastest attack craft, but it wasn't enough. Where once there had been thousands of ships from dozens of species, now there were only hundreds from a handful of civilizations that still remembered what cooperation meant. The final battle took place in the Centauri system, just 20 light years. From Earth, Chun commanded the human contingent from her flagship. Surrounded by alien vessels that most of her crew were seeing for the first time, the Devourers came out of hyperspace like a nightmare made real. They were things of twisted metal and hungry void, each one the size of a moon. They moved through space, consuming everything in their path: ships, asteroids, even light itself. The combined fleet fought with desperate courage. Human missiles exploded against Devourer hulls. Hegemony energy weapons carved burning lines through the darkness. Collective bioships released clouds of corrosive organisms that ate at the enemy's armor. For a moment, it seemed like they might have a chance. Then the Devourers began to feed on the battle itself. The explosions, the energy discharges, the very concept of conflict, all of it disappeared into their hungry maws. Ships that had been destroyed were suddenly intact again, only to be consumed by a different kind of hunger. Chun watched her sensors as reality began to break down around the battle. The Devourers weren't just eating matter and energy. They were eating the memory of the fight itself. All ships, retreat, she ordered. Fall back to the secondary defense line. But there was no retreat. The Devourers had consumed the space behind the fleet as well as the space ahead of it. They existed in a bubble of unreality where escape was impossible. Chun's last order was simple: send a message to Earth, tell them we tried. The final transmission never arrived. The battle at Centauri had been erased from history. As far as Earth knew, the defense fleet had never been launched, but Jin had prepared for this possibility. Hidden installations throughout human space activated automatically when they lost contact with the fleet. These facilities began broadcasting a simple message on all frequencies: the silence has ended, we are not alone, and we are not safe. On Earth, children played in parks while shadows moved across the sky above them. The shadows were vast ships that existed outside normal reality, creatures that fed on the very concept of existence, but the children couldn't see them. Even with Project Quietus shut down, some of humanity's reality filtering remained active. The Devourers were so alien, so contrary to human understanding, that human minds simply couldn't process their presence. A young girl named Maria looked up at the sky and saw only blue emptiness. She couldn't see the Devourer ship that was slowly consuming the space above her. Her mind edited out the impossible sight. Just as humanity had edited out the Galactic Council years before, she went back to playing with her friends, secure in the knowledge that nothing bad could happen in her perfect world. High above, reality began to fray at the edges as the Devourers fed. But Maria didn't notice. None of the humans noticed. The Galactic Council had asked for silence from humanity, and they had received it. Now humanity had asked for safety from the universe, and they were getting exactly what they requested. Forever. In the end, the greatest human trait, their ability to believe so strongly that they could make their beliefs real, had become their greatest weakness. They had thought themselves safe, and so they were safe, even as existence itself crumbled around them. The universe grew a little quieter, and in that silence something hungry continued to feed.